Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Many of us has thought of taking a gap year after the grueling years in university. However, we are not sure how will a gap year turn out. Will it be a fun and fruitful year, or will it be just a full year wasted? Today, I'm here to share with you my gap year experience in Malaysia and tell you whether should you take a gap year. The idea of taking a gap year surfaced during my first year of university when I was very interested in having a startup. I dreamt of having a university startup where later I'll just drop out of uni and then just pursue the startup dream. So in 2019, I founded a company during the summer break, but of course it didn't went so well. So I forget all about the gap year thing. But in 2020, this COVID pandemic thing came, and in Malaysia around March we had to study from home all the way to May, where I just ended my second year at home. So in year 3, my course is special because I will actually need to go to UK to complete this third year. However, that time UK cases are rising, and then even if I travel to UK, I will have to study from my dormitory. But there's this one thing which doesn't make sense for me. In UK, I'll have to pay 4 times the fees I pay in Malaysia, but I actually have to study from my dorm. I can't go to classes, I can't really use the university facility, so that didn't really make sense for me. Therefore, I decided to take a gap year, and I'm thinking of spending this 1 full year to get some work experience during this age of uncertainty. So, I had 4 plans for my gap year. Because before starting the gap year, I actually started working on a financial education website called Depressed 2020s, or full name Depression 2020s, which I'll share financial education, and I created a document saying why the world is actually heading for depression. You can actually head to the website called depressed2020s.com to actually find it and download it. That was my first plan. My second plan was just to continue with my company, which went dormant after the summer break. And my third plan was actually to find some computer science related internship or freelance job to make my CV look better. And worst case, my fourth choice is just to be a cashier at a pharmacy, just to actually pay for my expenses. When I first started my gap year, I went with 2 projects: the financial education website and my company, because I have no idea which one will actually turn out to be better. So around June, when the lockdown eased, I was lucky that I was able to find a supplier for my company. Therefore, I just straight off abandoned my financial website project. But it's still there hosted on the web. And for the next few months, the sales of my company grew steadily, and I was able to sustain it all the way until today. Running my company has actually enabled me to earn quite a reasonable amount of income, which I then invested in the financial markets, personal education, and I invested in new ventures like starting a podcast and restarting my YouTube. Now, before starting off your gap year, you should actually think of a few things first. The first being, what is the reason behind your gap year? Now, usually there's 2 kinds of reasons behind this. One is because you felt that you don't have control over your life, that's why you want to take a gap year. And the second one is that you know that you already have control over your life and you want to maximize it, that's why you want to get a gap year. So the example for the first one would be, maybe you just dislike your course, you felt like you went into the wrong course, so you wanted to take a quick break from it. An example from the second would be that you have run a successful business when you're in the university and you decided to spend more time building it. Or maybe you actually are very interested in traveling around the world and you have really put in effort into planning the whole thing. Now, if your reason falls on the first one, then no, actually you shouldn't take a gap year. But instead, you should find out ways to solve that problem. However, if your reason fall on the second one, yes, you might be on the right track. There's still a few things to consider, but the reason why a gap year might be suitable for you is that you have already put a lot of effort in it. Therefore, you might be ready for a gap year. Think about the risk which you are taking if you are taking this gap year. For me, there wasn't much risk because the only risk I'm taking is that I'll be graduating a year later, and that is totally fine for me. For others, it may be financial support or maybe course requirements, and you should list down all the risks which you are facing and see if it's within your risk tolerance. Because I don't want you to end up with nothing after your gap year. If you have a full year ahead of you, what would you do? This will be a case if you actually take a gap year. Plan out things and try to find things that actually add value onto yourself. Don't just spend a full gap year earning more money or watching TV. Find a real objective that you truly enjoy or appreciate doing over the 1 year period. Believe me, if it's not a long-term gratification, you will get burned out easily while you're doing it. Now, look at your plan. An interesting plan, I suppose. But think whether you will go all in for this plan. If you don't, maybe you shouldn't take a gap year. Because your plan should be so purposeful that you put in all your effort just to execute it. I started my financial education website and my business because I know that they are like my baby, and therefore I will put full care into it. 1 full year is actually a lot of time. So make sure that you actually spend it well. You should always have a plan Z in mind, because no matter how good your plans are, things may change for the worse anytime. Whoever thought that the COVID-19 pandemic is just right around the corner and changed everyone's life? That's why you should always think of the worst case scenario. For me, my worst case scenario is that I'll just work as a cashier in a pharmacy for 1 full year because I still need to feed myself even if my plan fails. So, you just have to think of your worst case scenario and think whether can you live with that for 1 full year. If you can, I'm glad to tell you that you only have one last thing left to consider. Finally, you just need to figure out how will this gap year help you. But of course, if you went through all the considerations and you actually planned well, there's no doubt that this gap year will help you. You just need to understand on what aspect it will help you on. But yes, life is unexpected and it's full of surprises. Therefore, you might end up getting helped more than you expected. Of course, for me, it really did help me a lot. And I'm actually very glad that I took this gap year. Now, let's head to the next section where I'll share what I've learned through this gap year. After this gap year, I've achieved and learned a lot. And it's not just on the surface level, it goes all the way down into my personality. A few things which I've learned are I know how to start a business, run a business. I now wake up at 5 every single day, and I've started my podcast and my YouTube, and even more. And if we talk about skills, I have learned to be more self-aware. I'm better at time management, time blocking, and self-discipline as well. But yes, these are not all the things which I've learned. There's more to it. But I'm not here to be a show-off, because I'm just here to prove to you that with the right execution, a gap year can be very beneficial to everyone. That's it for this video. If you enjoy, do like, share and subscribe, and consider checking out my previous video where I shared why I wake up at 5 AM every single day using the 5 a.m. club method. Or maybe you can check out Into's channel, which is a podcast channel created by me and my girlfriend, Verene, where we share our incongruous thoughts of our daily lives. Thanks everyone for watching, and hope to see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.